On a rainy spring night in 2006, a young Ohio State medical student walked into a bar in Columbus and never came out. Surveillance cameras caught him entering, but there's no footage of him leaving, no witnesses, no clues, no answers. Almost 2 decades later, the case of Brian Shaffer has become one of the most baffling missing persons mysteries in modern American history. This is the haunting story of the disappearance of Brian Shaffer. Brian Randall Shaffer was born on February 25, 1979, in Pickerington, Ohio. The oldest of 2 sons, Brian was described by family and friends as intelligent, ambitious, and charismatic. He had an easy smile and a deep love of music, particularly the band Pearl Jam. Some said he even dreamed of being in a band himself one day. After graduating from Ohio State University with a degree in microbiology, Brian pursued a dream of becoming a doctor. In 2004, he enrolled in OSU's College of Medicine, and by early 2006, he was in his 2nd year. But life wasn't all textbooks and exams. Brian had a serious girlfriend, Alexis Wagoner, whom he met during med school. Their relationship was strong, so strong in fact that many believed a proposal was just around the corner. The 2 were planning a trip to Miami over spring break, scheduled for the week following his disappearance. Yet behind the scenes, Brian was struggling. Just weeks earlier, he had suffered a deep personal loss. His mother, Renee Shaffer, had passed away in March of 2006 after a long battle with a rare form of cancer. Though Brian tried to maintain his usual upbeat demeanor, close friends later said they noticed he wasn't quite the same. Friday, March 31st, 2006, the start of spring break at Ohio State University. Classes were out, and Brian was ready to blow off some steam. Around 6:30 p.m., Brian had dinner with his father, Randy Shaffer. The 2 ate at a steakhouse and talked about school, life, and Brian's upcoming trip with Alexis. According to Randy, Brian seemed tired, but in good spirits. Later that evening, Brian met up with his friend Clint Florence. The 2 began what they called a bar crawl, hopping from venue to venue along Columbus's University District. By 9 p.m., the 2 had met up with another friend, Meredith Reed, who offered to give them a ride to the Ugly Tuna Saloona, a popular bar in the South Campus Gateway complex. At approximately 1:15 a.m., Brian was captured by surveillance cameras standing outside the bar, talking and laughing with 2 young women. After a brief chat, he re-entered the bar. This would be the last confirmed sighting of Brian Shaffer, ever. Inside the bar, the atmosphere was lively, with music blaring and drinks flowing. Clint and Meredith lost track of Brian for a time, but assumed he was mingling or had stepped out for a moment. At 2 a.m., last call came. Patrons began pouring out into the street. Clint and Meredith waited outside the bar for Brian, but he never appeared. They tried calling him but got no answer. Assuming he had left early or gone home, they eventually left without him. It wasn't until Monday, April 3rd, when Brian missed his flight to Miami with Alexis, that alarm bells began ringing. He hadn't called. He hadn't shown up. And now he had failed to meet his girlfriend at the airport. A missing person report was filed that same day. Columbus police launched a full investigation almost immediately. Brian's cell phone, bank accounts, and credit cards had shown no activity since the night he disappeared. Surveillance footage from the Ugly Tuna Saloona revealed something eerie. Cameras captured Brian entering the bar just after 1:15 a.m., but there was no footage of him ever leaving. Police analyzed all possible exits, main entrance, back exit, employee-only areas. All other patrons seen entering and leaving the bar were accounted for. Could Brian have slipped out through a service exit or a construction area? Possibly, but highly unlikely, investigators said. Most exit points were covered by cameras, and none showed Brian leaving. Flyers were distributed. Searches were conducted around the Gateway complex, nearby construction sites, and the Olentangy River. Cadaver dogs were brought in. Nothing. Everyone close to Brian was questioned, including Clint Florence and Meredith Reed. Clint, however, lawyered up early in the investigation and refused to take a polygraph test. Police found this suspicious, but without evidence, they couldn't compel him to cooperate further. Brian's father, Randy, publicly pleaded with Clint to share anything he might know. Still, Clint remained silent. Over the years, several theories have emerged, each more mysterious than the last. Some believe Brian may have died in a freak accident, perhaps falling into a construction site or becoming trapped in a maintenance area within the bar. But exhaustive searches turned up no evidence to support this. Could Brian have left his life behind? Some point to his grief over his mother's death, his exhaustion from med school, or a desire to start fresh. But he was in a committed relationship and made plans for the future. Friends and family dismissed this theory. Was Brian the victim of a targeted attack? Could someone have followed him into the bar or lured him into a trap? Yet there are no witnesses, no signs of a struggle, and no body. Some internet sleuths speculate about blind spots in the bar's camera system. Could Brian have disguised himself or exited with a group? Investigators admit that while unlikely, it's not impossible. Clint Florence's refusal to cooperate fully with the investigation has led many to wonder if he knows more than he's letting on. But again, there's no proof, just suspicion. In the years that followed, Brian's case remained cold. His father, Randy Shaffer, tirelessly searched for answers, posting flyers, working with private investigators, and keeping the story alive. Tragically, Randy passed away in 2008 when a tree fell on him during a windstorm. In his obituary, a note read, "Brian, I love you. You are my hero." He died never knowing what happened to his son. Since then, there have been sporadic tips and hoaxes. In 2020, a photo surfaced on the internet purporting to show Brian in Tijuana, Mexico, but it was quickly debunked by the FBI. To this day, Brian's brother, Derek Shaffer, continues to search for answers. The hope, however slim, is that one day the truth will finally surface. It's a mystery that refuses to be solved. A man who walked into a bar and vanished. No trace, no clue, no closure. The disappearance of Brian Shaffer continues to haunt not only his family and friends, but an entire nation captivated by one chilling question. How can someone simply disappear into thin air? If you or anyone you know has information regarding the disappearance of Brian Shaffer, please contact the Columbus Division of Police at 614-645-2358. Thank you for watching. If you found this case compelling, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. More true crime documentaries are on the way. Stay safe and never stop asking questions.